with Patrick Saunders. Patrick, go ahead.
Good afternoon, buddy. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Just saw your lineup a little while ago. It's pretty much the standard lineup, but my first question for you, buddy, as you go into this final 6 games, are you going to mix and match a little more with some of the young guys now that you're not playing the Dodgers or the Giants teams that are battling for a playoff position?
Okay. I'm trying to think of the young guys you're talking about. Who are you talking about?
I'm thinking about like a Colton Welker or.
Yeah, he might get a start tomorrow, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe, we'll see.
Okay, just my question.
But I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, Hampson, I'm thinking of the guys on the bench today. Hampson and Daza, Ruiz and Welker. And who's our other bench player? I should know this. Nunez. Yeah, Dom's going to catch. He'll catch 2 or 3 games here at the end. So he's one yet. Welker will get a start or 2, I think, probably. Sam, he's service time young. He'll get some starts. So I think you're just sort of asking about Welker, aren't you?
I suppose I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that sort of threw me. Yeah, he'll get a start or 2, probably. We'll see. Yeah. And Dom, he's young too. Dom will get a start or 2.
Okay. My next question for you is about CJ Cron. You've talked extensively about his production this year, but I'm wondering, I'm looking at his splits and they're pretty extreme, home and road.
Right.
Is that something, if you guys bring him back, that he needs to improve or change a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I think he'll be the first to tell you that, they're pretty drastic and he would like to improve on those. And that's something we talked about a lot. I think even last year, even though it was shortened season, right? 60 games, there were some drastic splits there with a number of our players. There's been some of the current roster, there's been some drastic road splits, for a number of our guys. But yeah, with CJ, that's for sure. I mean, we would like to think that he can improve on those. Because, really, this is his first year at Coors. And, every other at-bat that he's had, you could say would be on the road, right? His years in Anaheim, Tampa, Minnesota, Detroit. But yeah, that's an area of improvement for sure for him. And he'd be the first to tell you.
Is there anything in particular regarding his approach or his swing that you see that's at all different from Coors versus?
No, I don't think so. No, I think it's sort of the beauty of him. He's pretty consistent. Both in personality, home road, his work routine, home road, and his at bats, home road. So, I don't see anything different. Again, maybe a better question for him, but yeah, I don't see any difference in his approach, home or road.
And one more for me, buddy, regarding CJ. You were always very high on his offensive potential and his power potential. I don't know if you were quite so positive about his defense at first,
right? But
now that the season is almost over, how would you assess his various defensive skills at first?
Yeah, I think the second half he's been solid average defensively. I think he's made some great plays. The thing that has stood out for me is his ability to dig the ball out of the dirt on low throws from infielders. I think he's been very, very solid at that, and he's saved a lot of our infielders some errors in that regard. And I do think it's a comfort factor too. Coming from last year, only playing 9 games, some of those are probably at the DH. They're in Detroit. Being an American League player in Tampa, in Minnesota, in Anaheim, I'd have to look a little deeper into how many starts at first, how many DH games, all that. But I think as the season unfolded, he became more and more comfortable getting, the everyday repetitions at first base. So I think he can be very solid average on a scouting scale, big target, big wingspan to make plays. His hands are fine, great arm, above average arm. I could see him next year and beyond, being a really solid average defender on a scouting scale with potential for improvement. Great work with Stu. Stu's done a great job with him this year.
All right, let's head over to Thomas Harding.
Hey, buddy. It may be a little bit early for postmortems, things like that, but when I look at the home performance, obviously it's very good, but at the end, or toward the end, I should say, the Giants and the Dodgers have been very difficult for you guys. As you evaluate it, what are the things that kind of tripped you guys up in the last 3 series against those teams, and how much does that fall into the evaluation of the roster going into the winter?
Well, I think I have to go to teach every game. I'll recall these last 6, right? Against the Giants, we scored 2 runs a game. So offensively, we need to do better. That tripped us up. We had a couple games where their bullpen held us down and they nicked our bullpen. So whether that's, needing to shore up our bullpen, I think I think we have to do that. I think, all teams look to do that anyway. So, we'll look to address what we can do with our bullpen. But I think the Giants, we just haven't scored enough. Their pitching has held us down. So, in that regard, the Dodgers series, we scored we beat them 10-5, I think, in the middle game, and then we lost 2 10-inning games. Good games, right? So we played right there with them, but we didn't get the big hit. And I have to think back to each of those games and how they played out. But probably came down to a couple I know we had a couple opportunities against their bullpen and we didn't get the big hit. Clutch hitting. So a lot of that can be who we had at the plate, who they were, all those things. But the bigger picture, they beat us this year. There's no doubt about that, right? They, the Giants got us, and we had a losing record against the Dodgers. They're good teams. They both won over 100 games, so they're talented. So first of all, we got to catch them, and we got to try to catch up a little bit on the talent side. And then on those games that, if we don't catch up on the talent side, those games that we're in, which a lot of them were against the Dodgers, and some against the Giants, it comes down to a pitch here and that bat there. So that's what needs to take place.
I'm wondering, when you do, whether it's some reforming of the roster or you look to improve, do you look at those guys as kind of the standard and say, okay, how do we match up with them? Or do you just look at yourself? How do you make those decisions?
Well, I think you got to try to acquire the best players that you can acquire. Obviously it takes 2 to tango when you're trying to, either sign a free agent, make a trade, get into the free agent minor league market. There's a lot of competition for players. Thomas, as you know, just because you want a player and you like a player, there's probably 5, 6, 7 teams who like the same player. So it's a matter of being able to get him. But I know that, since I've been here, there's been an effort to sign a lot of players, strong effort to sign a lot of players, and we haven't signed them. They've chosen to go elsewhere, or we've signed some players who have chosen to be a Rocky. So, like I said, there's a lot of teams that go after players, and they can only go to one team. So, the effort's there to get there. So hopefully we can, we can get a couple guys either via free agency, via trade, minor league guy that maybe pops, those types of things to help our roster. And if we have a young guy or two who happens to burst on the scene and make an impact, whether on the mound or at the plate, that helps too, to get close.
The last one from me, speaking of young guy that could maybe pop through, Brian Rollison, it was announced today, he's going to play in, I believe, the Dominican Republic this winter. What is the plan with him? When does he go? And what are you hoping to see, obviously, to send him to that high level of competition in the offseason?
Well, hoping to see performance. That's the main thing. You want your guys to do well. You want them to show their talent, and you do that by playing. We have a number of guys going to winter ball, and we got a couple guys that we're trying to get them spots. But specifically to Rollinson, 2020 didn't pitch, right, because of COVID. This year he was, banged up a little bit, got hit in the thumb during batting practice, got hit in the hand during batting practice. Unfortunate, break there. Had the appendicitis. So, we got to get his innings up. Just like we got to get a lot of guys at bats up, to keep playing and improve as a player. You only get better by playing. But with him, he's going to a nice league as far as the competition. Great decision by him to be going there. Sam Hilliard, same thing. He's going to go get more at bats. Good for Sam. Brian Servin, Dom Nunez. Chris Owings is going to go play winter ball. His season was cut short. With the thumb. So we have, Julian, I don't need to bore you with all the names of the guys that are going, but specifically to Rollison, it'll be good for him. He needs to, not a lot of innings in AAA. This will be a good test for him to go against good competition in the Dominican.
Hey, and when does he go, and what are you looking at as far as?
I'm not sure exactly the date that he's going to go, but I believe he's going to pitch the first half of the season. He'll continue right on from, the AAA season and go down there. So he'll be down there in October, early October.
Okay, hey, let me follow up on.
I go and follow up. I know you got 2 or 3 more, even though you say last one for me.
Chris Owings. I think it was a 1-year contract, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah.
Are you guys kind of basically want to bring him back for a 3rd year?
We'll see. We'll see, Thomas. It's early. We still got 6 games left, Thomas.
Great.
But yeah, we like Chris Owings.
Yeah.
Likes the Rockies. We'll see if it works out.
Thanks, buddy.
You got it, Thomas.
All right, let's head to Patrick Lyons.
You guys have 8 players with 10 or more home runs. Do you think your team's power is a little bit under the radar? You might not have a guy that hits 30, but it seems to be spread out, a little bit more than.
I'd like to see more power from our group. I'd like to see more power. I think I think we need more power. Put it that way.
And then lastly, just a quick one. Dom Nunez, 293 plate appearances. He's yet to hit into a double play. Is that something that is a part of a player's skill set with a runner on first base? Do you think that you can kind of work around, or just kind of a coincidence?
I don't think he has tried not to hit a double play. I don't know how many times. I don't know what the number is of guys that have been on first, but I don't think anybody tries to hit into a double play. Guys try to hit the ball hard. Sometimes you hit the ball hard on the ground, but I think more than anything, Patrick, just from Dom doesn't hit a lot of balls on the ground because of his swing. I think it's more of a function of who he is as a hitter and his swing. Dom would probably, if you asked him, would probably take the chances of hitting the ball more than and he'd like to lower his strikeout rate and hit the ball more. And if it happens into a double play, it happens. But I mean, it's more of a function of what he does with his swing.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Owen Perkins.
Hey, buddy, I've got a few heading into the last week questions for you. One, just for you as a manager and looking at your managerial history, how does this season, how is it compared in terms of the challenges that you faced? Has it been a different kind of season in any way from other years, or is it right in there with the same old stuff?
I think it's they're all different. I mean, there's different challenges each and every year based on what unfolds, not only on the field, but, behind the scenes. Actually, we had a little bit of, it was a little uneven right early in the year with a change in our front office. But, that didn't really affect us, downstairs, in the clubhouse area, or the how the players reacted. So I mean, that was challenging in other areas that I hadn't experienced before. So I mean, they're all unique because there's always something that might be a little different than previous seasons. But on the baseball side, not much not much difference, right? I mean, I can get really long-winded here, and I know you guys don't want that, but it was not unlike a lot of other seasons, put it that way. Except the situation early in the year with our front office was something that hadn't happened to me before. I mean, that was a little different, but things smoothed out after that.
Okay. And then, this is not a follow-up to that, but just in terms of the team, there definitely, we saw some, I think, significant improvement from the beginning of the season to the end. Do you see any key turning points in the season for the team?
Well, again, I'd have to go back, and I've over the course of the last couple months, just following baseball, reading, some of those statistical things about won-loss records since a certain date, pitchers' ERA since a certain date, starters doing this, our runs scored since a certain date. I mean, all those things were, all pretty positive, the last 3 months. So that's a good thing. I'm not sure the exact date of a turning point or anything to turn it around, but when Rogers came back and sort of got into the flow, sort of coincided when Elias Diaz started hitting better. Connor Joe sort of getting into the lineup made some things different. Cron had had a really good August. Helped us win. Our bullpen over the last 6-7 weeks has been pretty consistent, has been better. Maybe not a huge leap, but better. So those things were, instrumental in us having, again, a more of a winning record from certain dates on the calendar that, you guys all talk about, and statistically, from certain dates we were better, runs scored and home runs and all those things. But we can talk about some other, some individual players, at some other time, but there were some good things. There's some good things, and there's some learning experiences for a lot of younger guys that will probably be part of the Rocky teams in the coming years. The number of guys that made their debuts, the number of some pitchers out of our bullpen who are young and got valuable experience in this season. these things will help us in the future. But, back to, Thomas's initial questions, we need to, we need to add to that. We need to add to this group. But, there's a lot of things to, be excited about, proud of that happened this season.
And this was a different question, but it may be the same. So if it is, we can just skip it. But, if there are things that kind of clicked for the team as a whole at a certain point, if there was not a certain point, but just a certain thing that clicked.
Yes, I mean, sort of the same
Yeah.
question.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure if anything clicked. I think that, the 13-man position player group, that's, that sort of group, in the middle of the summer, with Brendan sort of playing well, Elias getting hot, Connor, Daza, had a nice little run that helped us win. There were some things of that group of, players that sort of clicked, and we had a roll. I think, we've only used 8, 9 starting pitchers, I think, which, pretty impressive in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of turnover in the bullpen. There's, you look at other teams, pitching staff, roster of what they've done the whole year. We might be the team that maybe used the least amount of pitchers. I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but there wasn't a lot of turnover there. But, the only thing that, we got off to a really tough start offensively, and that really got us behind the 8 ball. That's, that sort of sticks out for me.
Well, yeah, and that leads to one of my last 2 questions. But one is, early on we talked about a small sample size on those offensive numbers, and hoping that things would even out as the season and people would reflect their statistics. I think, as you talked about with Cron, he probably is one case where he really did get to his level and beyond maybe. But most of them at the end of the season now, as we approach the end of the season, they look like their numbers are a little lower than typical. How is that? That's a full season's numbers. How do you?
There's a couple guys that are a little bit lower than their norm or their own personal expectation, and what they've done, in their past, and that was part of what happened early in the year with our 1-loss record. And there were some, over the pitching's been, on balance, fairly solid. Bullpen picked it up in the second half, first half, a little shaky. But, the reasons that, teams have good years are, and I've said this before, the majority of the roster are having really good years. You look at the Giants and say they're having a good year because, so many of their players are having good years. And other teams that maybe had high expectations, maybe not fulfilling their expectations. Guys had bad years, or not years up to their standards. So that's what happens, and that's why you play all 162, and at the end you evaluate it, and it's pretty clear what happened.
And then lastly,
for all 30 teams.
Yeah. And lastly, with all the progress that you did make on the field, and you've talked about a little bit of what needs to happen, off the field in the off season, but what is your sense of the biggest need to keep the progress going off season?
Well, again, like I said to Tom, I think we need a little bit more offense, and I think we have to, shore up the bullpen a little bit, to make that group as potentially strong as possible.
Great. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Or you hope the guys bounce back.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Which, as far as relievers go, that can happen.
Right.
We know that, bullpen performance is pretty variable from, if you look at the group of, 250, 300 bullpen members, you look at those 300 relievers and you track their performance year to year. It's a little, a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah. All right.